Hi, everybody. Happy Monday morning and welcome to Behind the Scenes. And today we're a little bit short here. We've got a few people missing, but we are mighty. So our conversation is going to focus on the 14 years of unbelievable advice we've received from experts that has changed our parenting. So I'm going to start. Excuse me. The list is so long. I don't know that my kids appreciate how much I've changed as a result of all the advice that we've had the gift of hearing. But I know as a parent, I changed so completely when I got to hear a perspective that was really one of kindness toward our kids. And I think it actually shocked me, like to look at these things from my kids' eyes and what their day looked like. So one of my favorite ones, which I wouldn't say that all the advice I got on that interview was top of list for me, but this one I talk about all the time. When your kid comes home from school and they walk in the house and they grunt at you and they throw down their backpack, or they get into the car and slam the door if you're picking them up, all of those things that really got my blood pressure rising. Like I was like, I was the broken record. Don't talk to me like that. Pick your bag up. Have more respect when you walk in the house. And then Dr. Dan Siegel talked about how our kids have had a rough day at school. They've been in this social jungle that we all know is so challenging. They also maybe didn't have the day go as they expected in terms of academics, grades, getting picked for a team, whatever else goes on in that very long day of school. And they walk in the house and they are now free from all of that, like uncontrollable world that they live in during the day hours. And the first thing they do is kind of do something aggressive, like they throw down their backpack. And Dan Siegel said, why don't you ask them if they had a hard day? And it made me teary because I thought, so much of my parenting had been about like the rules that we live by, and so not enough of it about this compassion for what it's like to be a teenager in a rough world, and where are the safe places to really vent and be yourself. So Dr. Dan Siegel, I really, that one really impacted me a lot. Thank you. And I pass it now to Sharon.
Good morning, everybody. When I thought about this question, I immediately thought of Catherine Perlman. She wrote an article for us a few years ago, which I'll post, about how to stop nagging your kid, which is what we all want to know, right? Like our kids want to know how we can stop nagging. We want to know. Nobody likes it. And her advice was basically, along with Carla Naumberg, who was also in the article, to set your expectation, decide on a consequence. And she said it much nicer than this, but shut up. I mean, just say what's going to happen, say what you want to happen, say what's going to happen if it doesn't, and then just let it go. And I still have to remind myself of this because I just have a tendency to that. But when I do it, when I just am more quiet and I just tell what's expected and what's going to happen, it is amazing how the results are better and everybody's happier because nobody wants nagging. So I will post that while the next person's going. Why don't I pass it to Mindy?
Thank you, Sharon. Honestly, it's hard. It's hard to pick one, I think, piece of advice. There's so many, and I've been here for so many years. But I think two, and I'll be quick. Two come to mind. One is, as this team knows, I cannot let go of, is the hug article. Because I rejected it and resisted it in the beginning. The one, Jessica, I'm sure you have it handy. Kids need 12 hugs a day. And I have 3 boys. And it was like 12 hugs a day, 3 boys, crazy. But it's really true. And they taught me too, a hug doesn't have to be a long 2-minute hug. It can be a hand on the shoulder. It could be a high five. It can be anything. And that has stuck with me for so many years. I'd love to know the date on that article. That has so stuck with me. And I believe benefited myself and my kids. The other one, and it kind of goes along with that, is having 3 boys. The whole time during puberty, when boys kind of retreat into themselves, I can remember like it was yesterday, one of them, or 2 of my boys sitting in the front seat of the car, driving somewhere, and no conversation happening, and just being so quiet. And I would get worried, like, are they depressed? Are they mad? Did something happen? Just very little conversation. And I don't know the article. Maybe it's several, but where that is very common, especially for boys, to kind of withdraw into themselves during that whole puberty thing. And my boys are older now. They do come out of it. One in particular, now when they call, 40 minutes, time to shut up, time to stop talking. So they definitely come out of it. But it was so comforting to know that it's normal and it's okay. And it doesn't mean there's something horribly wrong with your child. So those are 2 that stick with me and will stick with me forever.
Mindy, remember the article that someone wrote about if the kid wanted to talk, they sat in the front seat, and if the kid didn't want to talk, they sat in the back seat. And if anybody remembers who that was, then Jessica could find the article. I don't remember who wrote it, but thank you to the mom who wrote that, because it's brilliant. Like, let your kids choose. They're like saying, today I just need silence, right?
Yeah. That was a parent hack. I love those little short tips for helping us get through parenting.
And I think it teaches you to be okay with silence. Like, that's hard, I think. Like, we feel, okay, we haven't seen our kids all day. But it's okay to be silent and be with your child. Like, that's okay. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. So I'm going to swing it on down to Kamira.
Good morning. Thanks, Mindy. I too have a couple, but one that really sticks with me was Dr. Mark Golston. He had an article he did an interview with Sue, and then we wrote an article, and it was about connecting with your teen. And he had an exercise that I just tried for the sake of it over dinner the day that I was typing up the article. And in the exercise, one of the questions you ask your teen is, did anything upset you today? And I know a lot of us do highs and lows and all those things, but the way he worded it, it really brought something out over dinner with my teen. And he has these follow-up questions that you asked, and it was really helpful for us. And it's taught me how to rephrase that if you want to learn something. And I uncovered something. It wasn't that I expected anything or suspected anything. I was just using the article because I had just written it and uncovered something that I probably never really would have known. So thank you for that, Dr. Golston. And the other one is from Dr. Ross Green, who was one of our interviewees. He confirmed something that my teen had begun saying to me, which is that parents need to stop assuming alternative motives or such when teens explicitly state something. Like, a lot of times I see on parenting blogs and stuff, and in these groups, a teen will say, I do want this or don't want that. And we'll say, well, they probably really mean this or that. No, they mean what they say. Now they're growing and that can change or they could be mistaken, but in the moment they mean what they say, and we need to stop assuming ulterior motives. Who is left? Am I the last one to go? No, Jessica.
Kamira, before you move on, do you remember what question you asked at the table specifically that opened up the dialogue?
I believe it was, I was searching. That's why I was looking down when everyone else was talking. I was searching, and I think it was, did anything upset you today? But that wasn't the first question. There were a couple of questions, but that question opened a conversation. But the article it's Dr. Mark Golston, Goulston.
Jessica already got it into the chat.
There you go. So it's in there. So anybody who's interested, I recommend it. It was eye-opening for us, and I've used it since then. Jen, we have Jen.
So my beat at your teen is oftentimes talking about the college process, which can start anywhere between 10th grade and 13th grade, depending on if your student's taking a gap year. And I wish I could remember which particular expert gave this advice, and I may have actually heard it from more than one, but this was golden to me when my kids were going through this process, which was you take one day that you designate, this is the day we will talk about it, and no other day. And you really have to stick to it. In our house, it was Sunday. That was just the day that it worked. Because otherwise, believe me, they feel the pressure. If they are at all interested in college and think that's where they're going, it starts barreling down on them before you're even aware. They hear about it at school. They hear about it from their teacher who might be working with them on their essays. They might be hearing it from their guidance counselor who's helping them pick the right courses they need. They're doing a PSAT now in 10th grade. They're getting it from all sides, and not to mention, mostly actually from their peers. Their peers are talking about it all the time. They don't need to hear it from you. Yes, you need to make sure they're getting things done, they're on top of their deadlines, that kind of thing. But you can do that in one check-in once a week and no other time. And I think that saved a lot of sanity in our house. So I think that you can actually extrapolate that to other things. And I will give you an example. Right now, one of my older kids who's already in college is planning to go abroad for a semester, if that can even happen in this pandemic age. There's a lot of checkpoints and things that have to be done, and many of them are very consequential. You have to go, schedule a visa appointment, which is not easy right now. And I'm really working hard at biting my tongue and not asking her every day, did you do that? Did you get that done? How about this thing? How about that thing? She's got a lot of other things on her plate. So I made a note to just only talk to her about it on Sundays. I don't know if she's noticed that, but I'm really pulling back on that. So maybe whatever it is, whatever that thing is that's hanging over them and you want them to do it so badly, try the one day topic approach and see if that helps. Gonna pass it to Jessica, I think.
Yep, sounds good. First, real quick, before I forget, Mindy, the Hug article was published November 22nd, 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jess. And it's still relevant. I mean, I think about that now when my boys come home and, and again, I know, Sue, you love this. It was so hard for me to accept, like many things parenting, right? We're set in our ways and in order to change it. So that also was a good lesson for me that, this old dog can learn new tricks too. Thanks, Jessica.
Maybe Mindy, we should start a National Hug Your Teenager Day on, what was it, November 22nd?
Yeah. All right, and real quick, we also got a couple of comments that I'm just going to bring up on the screen real quick. So first one is from Christina. My favorite question in the car at dinner is, tell me something that made you laugh today. Which I think that's a good one. It's open-ended, get a kid talking. And then Joanna says, when they're venting, I ask, do you need advice or just vent? That way I know what she needs from me. Which I think we've definitely talked about that before on one of these live streams. I don't remember.
I think the first time I heard that that piece of advice was from Lisa D'Amour, like she in her books, and and it's just so good because they actually answer honestly. Like, I just want to vent, or I'm really looking for help. It's such a great question.
And then, so my specific, I don't think I have a specific person who said it, but like particularly in middle school, but kind of throughout my life, have been a very anxious person, and a lot of that anxiety, becomes physical symptoms. And I've been trying to get more into the mindfulness stuff that, we've had multiple people writing articles and interviews about mindfulness, and I don't know if I'm necessarily getting good at it, but I don't know. I think that that's the sort of thing that, and my dad has been trying to encourage me to do it too. And I think he was saying, he wished he'd been kind of encouraging that earlier in my life, what with my very anxious middle school days. So I don't know. That's, I've been trying to, we'll see if it starts working, but I'm early in my mindfulness journey. We'll see. I'm going to pass it back to Sue.
Okay, so I want to give one last one. First of all, Kamira, you need to tell us about tomorrow and your interview. So let's do that.
Yes. Tomorrow, we're talking technically dating, understanding teen dating abuse and in technology. There's a lot happening there that we parents don't know about and don't see. So we're having 2 representatives from day one, the New York office, who are going to come and talk to us about that.
So, so Tuesday at 10:30, make sure you get on Facebook Live. And then, sorry about that. So I want to give one last thing that I was thinking about, which is a little bit in line with Dan Siegel's advice, which is from Amy Spidell. And Amy Spidell told me one time when I had an issue going on in my house that if you get your kid to follow the consequences of whatever it was that was bad behavior, and while they are doing living with the consequences, doing exactly what you ask them, they mutter under their breath something completely inappropriate. She said, ignore it. Ignore it, because you've taken so much from them, so much power from them, and imposed your will on whatever their misbehavior was or whatever you thought didn't work. And that's like kind of holding on to a little power for them. And I did it right after, because I'd had a scenario. I followed her advice. Of course, the kid did what I said they had to do and mumbled something really horrible, and I completely ignored it, and it was brilliant. So I know that my inclination is to say, don't talk to me like that, all of those things. Ignoring is a really, really good skill. And if you've never tried it and you don't believe me, try it once. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But for me, it was super helpful. Anybody have another one to add in? Mindy.
I have one more, and I believe it may have been at one of our college fairs, but for all those parents with kids applying to college these days, the one piece of advice that sticks with me forever is college, not to take rejection personally, that your child may have a better SAT score. They may have better curriculars or student council, whatever it may be. But the college at that point needed a tuba player. So the whole idea was your child may be very well qualified for their number one favorite choice of colleges. But that college at this moment needs, I think the example was, we can't have all leaders. Like the big thing with essays was, I'm a leader, my leadership skills. And I believe it was an admissions counselor. And he said, we can't have a class full of leaders. We need tuba players. We need athletes. So not to take it personally that they need to spread the wealth. And to me, that was so helpful to say to my kids, hey, it doesn't mean you're no good. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean that whatever. That there are reasons beyond just your child's scores and extracurriculars for not getting into a college. And that to me was huge. And for my boys also, they were able to take a step back and say, okay, it's not always just about me. So.
Anyone else want to share? And by the way, Mindy, that's a good lesson for life. Like when you apply for jobs and it feels so personal, and who knows what it was. Okay, Sharon.
Also on the college track, when I first heard this through your team, my oldest was probably like 8th grade. So the whole college thing was totally scary and total mystery. But just hearing the experts say, a couple of different experts remind us, there are over 4,000, I think it's 4,000 colleges in this country. And there are so many that could be a great fit for your kid. And I immediately relaxed. Like my oldest now in 10th grade, so we're still a little bit of ways from real applying to college. But just hearing that, it was like, it's such a nice gut check. Like, okay, just chill. There are not 20 colleges in this country that your kid has to get into. There are lots of options. So I love it when this advice just makes us feel better about parenting.
Definitely. Anyone else before we sign off? Okay. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you next Monday.